morning. That's it, yeah. We are discussing energy here. You should all exhibit that energy, So, very good morning and warm welcome to this 8th edition of LNG India Summit. I would like to compliment Messe Frankfurt for continuously organizing this LNG India Summit on very, very relevant themes. We like to really thank and welcome our chief guest, Dr. Saraswat. Sir, we are honored by your presence here, and we are grateful that you agreed to our request. We are indeed thankful for our other esteemed guest speakers here, Mr. Sachiv Kumar, ADG of Director General of Hydrocarbons, and Shri Deepak Mishra, Joint Secretary in the Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizer. A very warm welcome to all the invitees, speakers, delegates. I see some of my very senior colleagues from Shri Suresh Mathurji here. I see Dr. Sharma, Mr. Kautav Nag, and many more here. So it's a wonderful setting for vibrant discussions on the theme here. We all are aware that the world is actually struggling to overcome the impact of climate change today. You would have read today, Delhi temperature 52.9, amazing. We had never thought. I've been there for 50 years in Delhi and around, never experienced this kind of thing. We may not really notice this, but these are all impacts of the climate change. And I think it's time that we seriously indulge ourselves that what as a company, as an organization, as a country, and also as an individual, we should be doing to combat that. So it's a very, very serious topic, and we need to put all our thoughts together. So there's a lot of pressure, maximum contribution coming from oil and gas sector, energy sector. So we are considered as a very polluting sector here. So we need to be more conscious of that. About how do you really work for a cleaner, better world here. And mankind has always been working, looking for better, efficient, cleaner, greener energy sources on that. But this time, the dimensions are much, much bigger. Challenges are much, much bigger. It is an alarming situation. And this requires urgent collective efforts to really overcome these issues. And I think all the countries, companies, and even individuals are coming together to really put their thoughts together. All countries, particularly the fast-growing economies like India, China, are in focus due to our large energy requirements on that. The energy markets, we all understand, are highly networked. And there is a great amount of interdependence on the countries. We must understand that. India, with about 18% of the world's population, with aspirations to improve the quality of life of people, we see that our energy demands are growing at a very fast rate. So we need to be really more conscious about what needs to be done in future. How do we really transition ourselves to a cleaner, better, affordable energy system for our country. India is also conscious about its energy needs, options that are available to us, and developing strategies and action plans to meet these energy demands. At the same time, trying to transition to a greener, cleaner energy system, an efficient energy system. And we could not have asked for a better person than Dr. Saraswat, who is actually driving such initiatives from Niti Aayog. So thank you very much, sir, for agreeing to be part of us, and we look forward to your address. India, we must all appreciate that we cannot operate in isolation, independently. And we must consider what's all happening in the energy field, energy transition world over. We can't be, ignoring that. So let's see globally what all is happening and how we can transition ourselves. What are the changes are happening in the global world? And then we discuss this in the context of this 8th LNG summit as to what are the priority areas that we need to discuss and what all can be done. And maybe, sir, after this two-day discussion, we will come up with some of the recommendations. We'll forward it to you. We'd like to consider them to incorporate in the policies of the Government of India. So I have a small presentation to set the context of the discussion that we propose in the next 2 years, 2 days' time here. So here we have energy transition is actually not new. The mankind has been transitioning from a long time, and they've been from biomass to coal to gas, and there have been triggers world over where the transitions have been taking place. But the important things that is different this time is, number one, that the energy consumption, that CAGR, the growth rate is coming down. Efficiencies are becoming, and there's a tremendous change for the renewables that is coming up. This is the worldwide trend we see. This is a study done by McKinsey, and we all perhaps are aware of that. What it means is that by 2050, if you see approximately, and there are a number of scenarios done by international number of organizations, federations, companies and all, they may be differing in their little timelines, but the trend is something similar. So it is most likely that this trend is going to be followed. So which says that by 2050, the contribution of fossil fuel and renewables may be around 50-50. So consider this scenario, if it is going to be there 50-50, what is India's priorities? Are we really moving towards that? Are we going to meet those targets or not? Is our contribution right now, which is much different, can we achieve this by that? And then we must also see that in line of that, achieving some of the targets, Government of India has announced certain commitments, certain policies, certain strategies and action plans to achieve that. But this is a trend, and we can't ignore it. As an organization, how is your organization actually developing strategies and action plans to meet the energy transition to cleaner energy, cutting down emissions, and perhaps being more efficient in their energy system? If you see contribution-wise, it's very, very clear that if you see the last one here, coal, by 2050, the coal contribution will be less than 50%, what it is right now. So is for the oil as such. Only gas is the one which is marginally less, expected to be slightly less in 2050. So this is a significant thing, we need to note that. But more dramatic thing is the emergence of renewable, which is solar, hydropower and wind. Dramatic change in that, and this is the trend world over. And we see that India is one of the major players when it comes to really solar, one of the biggest programs to generate solar energy is in India on that, Solar Alliance and all. So I think if this is the trend, then what is it that we can do? This is just to share a study in different regions of the world which shows how the share of coal, which is the most polluting one, and natural gas is going to be there if the strategies and actions are there. So we see that Indian part by 2040 would be much less, about 20%, and it is decreasing. So it's a right trend. And we see some of the trends in the Europe, US. So these are the things which are happening, and we need to be conscious if the world is moving there, why they are moving there, what are the advantages, and also at the same time see that the development programs are not impacted adversely, how we can balance it out on that. But these are very interesting studies which shows that trend is very clear towards cleaner energy, greener energy part. So what are the takeaways from there? Number one, pressure is mounting as emissions are set to remain even now high right up to mid-30s. Decarbonization is on the agenda. It's very important. And all companies, organizations, countries are developing strategies. I'm sure at your organization also, there would be some initiatives to really decarbonize your activities, your processes and systems. Hydrogen and carbon capture and usage is having a tremendous potential to really transform organization countries. So the focus is coming on developing technologies to produce gas. We move towards a hydrogen economy, and we can sort of slowly develop our process systems where we can use it efficiently. The world is also moving from, oil. The oil demand is diminishing, and cheaper oil is only there. And some of the targets, if you try to analyze from emissions, if we are able to achieve 1.5 degree, practically, if you critically examine what will happen to oil and gas industries, if we forcefully say and mandate that you have no other option but to achieve 1.5 degrees, would mean that a large number of oil and gas producing assets have to be closed down. So I think this is going to be that dramatic impact of that. And of course, it's very difficult to do that, but then you need to really develop. So oil and gas companies are really working out strategies very fast as to what they can do to decarbonize their processes and systems and move to a cleaner system on that. Multiple energy transition we have seen happening, but this time it is very, very dramatic. And I'm reminded of a book by Lester Brown, Plan 2B, where he says clearly that the world has about a decade time to reverse some of the processes to be able to become more sustainable. Otherwise, we are in a very critical stage of that. It's an interesting read on that. And in the energy transition features, one of the most important thing and relevant for our today's, this 8th LNG summit is that gas is one which is thriving still. Not only up to 2050, but maybe beyond that. And within the gas business, it is LNG which is thriving. And I'll show you some of the things that are likely to be there. So if you see what is the global gas demand, if we try to analyze it, if it is business as usual, then the majority of the gas would be as usual on that. But if we really apply some of the net zero thing, then you will see that larger part has to be greener. About 65% of that has to be greener. So how do you get that? What changes are required on that? So that's very important. This is a study done by BP and very important when it comes to gas requirement globally. And if we are really forcing some of the strategies to move towards cleaner, this thing. Role of gas, therefore, is very, very important in the energy transition. This is the one energy source which goes beyond 2050. So there is a large school of thought which has said that it is a bridging source, that till we have something in other things than renewable, then it will function. And it is termed as a bridge energy source. But then when we see the role it is going to play, it is going beyond that. So I personally feel that it's not correct to really term it as a bridge energy source. It will just certainly play much important role beyond 2050 also. The challenge is how we can really decarbonize this gas. And gas business as such, if you see different segments of the world, role of gas is different. For example, in US, which is a dominantly gas market in terms of energy systems there, they are trying to work out on how do you decarbonize gas. Europe is shifted coal to gas now. While we are really trying to replace now and look at what role gas can play on that. So it depends upon different market at what maturity, what systems are prevalent. So gas cannot have just one similar role. It has different roles of that. But for countries which are large economic and fast-growing economies, the gas becomes very important for that. Sectoral look, if you see that, we see some of the sectors which are driving, and the industrial sector of gas is still going to grow. And from several other gas is being used as a feedstock there, where there is no other substitute. Therefore, for a long time, gas would continue to play an important role, and therefore it's very important to look at some of the sectors that are like automotive, industrial. They are very important and going to be for long term. Coming to the share of LNG within this, you will see that this gray part, which is the LNG, this thing, this portion is growing over a period of time. So in a gas market, which is going to be marginally lesser by 2050 as per the trends are there, and these trends can also change because the dynamics of the consumption, geopolitical issues can make dramatic changes on the energy systems. But then when we are talking about trend, gas certainly will continue to play an important role. And within the gas sector, it is LNG which is thriving. And therefore, for the share of LNG, the global supply will increase consistently as it meets the demand of growth and replaces declining pipeline and domestic gas there. Also, the demand-wise, if you see, factor into what all is happening, which new facilities coming for LNG, we find that 2030, 35 onwards, there would be around 2 to 3% growth in the LNG, and there would be a demand-supply gap. So there seems to be a pretty much gap here, which would perhaps give a lot of thrust to new LNG terminals, new LNG liquefaction, and production of LNG. If you see some of the trends, some of the investment decisions, you will find that this, by 2025, tremendous amount of investment is coming in US in the LNG terminals. So in coming time, US, which is already top three in the top 3 countries of the world producing LNG, may perhaps be becoming the first country, number 1 company as far as the LNG terminals are concerned, capacity to produce LNG and make it available for the world. So tremendous amount of investment is coming there. Coming to India specifically, we see that there is a trend. Power generation is a sector which we can debate for a long time. Do we have an option that gas can really be used there? It has potential, but there is a trend shift of coal to gas. There is a 6-fold increase in renewable energy, and we must also see a trend, other than what I've shown, that there is a trend to use energy in the form of electricity. So electrification of energy system is also a very clear trend because it's more efficient, and therefore we should be conscious that what energy we use in the form, it may be in coming future, may be in the form of electricity. So in this 2-day LNG summit, we have about 15 odd sessions, sir. There are fireside chats also on specific issues there. There is a CEO roundtable. There is how do we focus in, how do we enhance gas contribution in the energy mix. The government has very clear and has set a target that from existing 6.5% in the primary energy contribution, how we can bring it to around 15%, which is more than double. It's a big challenge. And I think unless we have focused action plan, investments on various aspects of gas, it's very difficult to really achieve that. So this will be debated here. LNG supply scenario, particularly in terms of India as a market, is a big market, but it is considered as a price sensitive. There are issues of specific contracting issues here. So that is going to be discussed. LNG infrastructure, what kind of new facilities are required, how we are going to bring gas to the customer, close to customer, that is going to be seen. CGD, gas grid are the major sectors that are expected to be emerging in terms of gas consumption here. LNG shipping, new technologies in shipping, ship-to-ship transfer, equipment and all is going to be very interesting here. LNG as a fuel and also a small-scale LNG where we can perhaps use some of the customers which are smaller customers and see that we can use inland shipping opportunities to bring that LNG or gas to the customer. These are the areas that we are going to discuss in the two days here. And I'm sure, sir, with this discussion, some concrete points will emerge which we'd like to really tabulate and give as a recommendation. This is what the organization companies consider worthwhile for consideration to be dovetailed in the policy framework of the Government of India. With that, sir, I think we have going to have 2 days very vibrant discussion there. And thank you very much for being part of this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Balian, for taking us such a interesting insight. And as you said rightly, that gas is thriving and LNG is the future beyond 2050. And India being one of the biggest markets for LNG. And now I'd like to call to the fore a gentleman who has over 34 years of experience in exploration and production, E&P. He began his career with ONGC in 1989 as a graduate trainee. Sri Sachiv Kumar, Additional Director General, Development Directorate General of Hydrocarbons, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Government of India.
Good morning, everyone. Respected Director Dr. Saraswat sir, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Fertilizer, Dr. Balian, my dear ladies and gentlemen. First of all, it is my proud privilege to address this august gathering as well as the sharing the dais with the eminent personalities. I think it is giving me so much respect and everything, so it's a great achievement for me. And it is my moral responsibility to present you some of the facts about the E&P industry. Very difficult to absorb that fossil fuels, some of them are saying leaving, some of them are saying, but this industry of fossil fuel has served a lot to the society, particularly, I should say, in the beginning of itself, that fossil fuels, if they have not utilized the technology, which is the key factor, we would have been not access to the deep water, ultra deep water, shale. So this is a great achievement of fossil fuel industry, and now we have got one big factor is the gas, which is going to be a transition element. And as our Dr. Balian sir has said about the gas is going to play a very big role. But how competent enough this word, because gas is a very peculiar element. If you study the basics of gas, production itself, transmission itself, that is a very, very peculiar thing. And those who are working in E&P industry, my colleague Costo is also sitting over here, everybody is saying a lot of reserves and everything is there. But when you produce, when you transmit, and when you consume, so a lot of difficulties coming over there. And one of the best part is that everybody is talking about price. In industry, if you talk anything about the cost of production, but my view is that unless and until if you will not utilize the technology, it is our moral responsibility to reduce the cost and to introduce more and more technology. So, beginning from this, I'm just saying that Government of India has set down 15% target. But when we are saying target, we will have to see in integration. All the things will have to, economic development, growth, midstream, downstream, upstream, everybody will have to cooperate. I think so far as production is concerned, definitely gas is having very bright future. And if you see, The gas production already has been defined, but this year we have got at least increase in production by 2 BCM, and oil production decline has been arrested. Because if you see the normal benchmark of decline of 7 to 10% in oil and gas industry, it is now arrested and it is almost having some increasing trend. So gas is having bright future. And if you see, the LNG contribution is also slightly increased this year because of involvement of power sector. Now, Mr. Sharma has told as well as 15%, if you see the combination, we need a lot of gas, 600 million gas. So this quantity of gas is need LNG. And I think gas requirement, LNG is our basic need. LNG is our basic requirement, India. And if you see the growth rate as far as all these regulatory reforms and other things, India needs almost 13% growth rate right now. Agar hame 2030 tak, if you will have to do it by 2030. So that is why IEA has shifted it up to by 2050. And by 2050, domestic production is to be 283 MMSCMD. Right now, we are producing almost 100. So as a E&P industry, we will have to produce almost 3 times. Next is coming about the domestic upstream reforms, and for the improvement of E&P sector, particularly gas sector, our domestic upstream reforms and initiatives taken by, a lot of initiatives have been taken by Government of India. And if you see this pyramid, this is a very, very easy pyramid for those who are working in E&P industry. These are the conventional resources. And if you see, already we have entered into the unconventional area. Now, India is trying a lot about the coal bed methane, particularly coal bed methane, and this on tight gas sands and methane hydrates also. We are entering into we have set down the target of exploration acreage, 0.5 million square kilometer by 2025, 1 million square kilometer by 2030. Dr. Kostonag is present over here, may be present in the subsequent lectures, but no-go area is also reduced by 99%. So 1 million square kilometer of India's exclusive economic zone is released. This is the area which is very vital. Recently, we have discovered 2 main discoveries in the Indonesian offshore. And Government of India has implemented number of policy changes to boost the exploration and production activities, open acreage policy, then marketing and pricing freedom, and other incentives. New players are also entering into this business through DSF and OLP. Now, if you see the domestic reforms, India gradually transitioning from the regulated pricing to pricing freedom, and revised domestic natural gas pricing guidelines recently, which has been given, it has already given boost to the nomination sector as well as to the NELP and pre-NELP. So investment is needed in the E&P business to promote the gas production and gas supply. New price regime that would going to provide much needed boost towards a gas-based economy. And producers would also have to receive the sufficient production. This new gas policy, which has been given by the Parekh Committee recommendation, actually this has, I'm going to point out here, our industry is getting, fossil fuel industry is getting a lot of profit. They are having the responsibility of energy transition, but they are also having the responsibility to investment in this sector. So we request to the E&P players that they should, unless and until they will not invest in exploration business, I think very difficult for the gas business. Next is gas business needs support of the midstream. That is what I said in the beginning, gas production. Midstream development needs a lot, 6% to 15%. So this midstream development Now IGGL network is also coming in the northeast, and it is going to give lot of stranded and locked up potential released, almost 10 million gas. Northeast is still undiscovered, we should say. Bangladesh is producing a lot gas nearby to Tripura. We are also having a lot of potential in Assam Arakan Fold Belt, Assam, Upper Assam area. So this portion is going to give us this year, and almost next year target is very, very handsome. Faster monetization of stranded gas for the city gas distribution. I should say, still now, that is what Dr. Balyan has said, city gas distribution. This is the main area where small quantity of gas but big technology and pricing is needed. So what we need midstream collaboration, resource sharing. Unless and until India will not do the resource sharing, we will not be able to see our country as a gas-based economy. Apart from that, we are also entering into the CBM production. Almost, we are reaching to 2 million. Probably by the end of this year, we will go by almost more than 3 million production of CBM. And for CBM, we are going for even exploration round also. 7 blocks have already been given. Still now, commercial production of CBM is going to give almost 5 MMSCMD per day by the end of 2030. Then next is how to convert the contingent resources to reserves. Actually, this is the area where Government of India is promoting that exploration in mining lease area. You utilize this area and convert the resources into the assets. Recently, we, as a Government of India, DGH, we are trying to incentivize this area. We are promoting more and more development aspects. Dr. Kostonag is sitting over here, and probably we are getting a lot of success over in this area, because these are the area where no more exploration is required. Then next is the Mahanadi and Kutch Basin. Actually, sir, in the coming years, if you see the basin production, South basin production is going to be declined. If India is not going to develop these two category 2 basins, Mahanadi and Kutch Basin, it will not going to offset the coming year's production. So this is the main area where we are stressing on Mahanadi and Kutch Basin through resource sharing. Again, I am saying, because these are all category 2 basin, so E&P companies will have to utilize the resource sharing. This is the biggest theme which we will have to adopt for the gas-based economy. And last is the LNG. I think already Balyan Sahab has said a lot about things, but one thing I am saying, I am working in one gas committee. I am saying LNG is our need. We need more and more technology. There is no substitute, because it is the only thing which we can utilize the stranded gas. And probably stranded gas in a small quantity is going to give more and more in India in coming years, because pressures are depleting of the producing fields. So we have to take the cognizance that we will have to produce the small quantity of LNG. So a small quantity of LNG business is going to give a lot of boost to the country and as well as the gas business. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for taking us through the interesting part is that there is no substitute for LNG. Thank you for the insights. Ladies and gentlemen, we would be taking a limited number of questions for the speakers via slido.com, and open your web browser as you would require at any point of time for over 2 days. And when you want to ask a question to a speaker, on the homepage of the website, slido.com, please enter the event code 603312. I repeat, 603312, and simply type your question mentioning your name as well as the speaker to whom you want to question. And if we have the time today, because we are running against time in the with due respect to the time, we would like we would take 2 questions if the time allows us to do that. Now, without wasting any more time, I'd like to invite to the fore for our keynote address, Sri Deepak Mishra, Joint Secretary, Department of Chemicals and Petrochemicals, Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers, Government of India. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause, please. Sir.
Namaskar to everyone. Respected Chief Guest, Dr. V.K. Saraswat, Shri Sachiv Kumarji, Dr. A.K. Balyan, all the dignitaries who are present over here, the captains from the industry, ladies and gentlemen. Basically, whenever we discuss oil and gas, we discuss, the main emphasis is on basically the energy part. But I work in a slightly different sector other than the energy. Energy, you use the chemical energy of those molecules to derive the useful energy. Another way is to utilize the same molecules and energy from them and realign them as to form materials. And these materials which are derived from fossil fuels, commonly known as petrochemicals, derived from petroleum resources. Of course, there are other feedstocks. And those chemicals are now occupying a big part of our lives. We use them in virtually everything. The clothes we wear, and the bottles from where we drink water, the packaging, vehicles, and virtually all parts of the our life where we we use all those materials, commonly called as polymers. So basically, I deal with that sector, and we are talking about the future in 2050. As to what will be the scenario will be very different from what we are having right now because of a lot of changes, technological changes which are happening, and as many speakers have pointed out, the climate change, which was basically an abstract concept few years back, maybe a decade back, we are witnessing it now. So 1.5 degrees centigrade or this much carbon in the atmosphere, that was supposed to be something which was abstract to us. Now we are seeing it regularly in form of increased heat waves, climate events, and there is a pressure on us to basically decarbonize, as everybody was telling. So, as per one IEA report, major driver of global oil and gas demand will be the chemical sector or the petrochemical sector. And it is expected that more than a third of the global additional oil demand by 2030 and 50% by 2050 will be driven by the petrochemical sector. And this sector will take maybe more resources in 2050 onwards than the transportation sector, which is supposed to consume a large amount of oil and gas. In India, if I talk about, as on today, Indians consume about 15 kilogram of polymers per year, while the world average is 36 kilogram per year. So you can see the amount of the additional requirement of polymers which we are going to need as and when we develop more in the years to come. Another stats which I will I will put up, like right now we produce around 35 million metric ton of petrochemicals, and 2050 we will be needing about 90 to 95 million metric tons of polymers. And the feedstock for all this has to come from fossil fuels. I mean, so what are the feedstocks which are used basically for deriving the polymers? Each region has a particular specialization, which we can call. Naphtha, of course, is common to everywhere. So is the gas being used. But Europe, say, USA and Middle East, they use large amount of ethane as well, because that is more easily available and cheaper in those particular geographies. China uses large amount of coal, and it has developed the technology, and it has got a great amount of coal reserves as well. India, we also have a lot of coals, but we don't have technologies. We have not gone ahead, but I think we are developing, sir, in the near future to use some amount of coal for producing this petchem feedstock. India is basically like we don't have an advantage in terms of feedstock for any particular thing. So we use almost everything, whatever is available. So naphtha is used largely from refineries, even in standalone petrochemical plants. Gas crackers are also there, which are used. One of the petrochemical plant even imports large amount of ethane, and that is cracked. A lot of players which are there in the gas sector, like LNG and GAIL, use the gas to take care of the petrochem downstream requirement. One thing is clear, that all the refineries or the natural gas players who are coming, increasing all over the world, they are integrating with petrochemical or chemical production. Basically, it makes a good business sense. Hedging your bets, as they call it, it's a good economics for the industries. So we expect the same, and fortunately that almost all the companies are diversifying their product mix to include petrochemicals also. When we take the stock taking in the next 5 to 6 years, we are finding that around 7 to 8 lakh crores investments are expected in the petrochemical sector for making the basic petrochemicals like polyethylene, polypropylene, polyvinyl chlorides, and the basic polymers and polyesters, of course, which we use. So petrochemical sector is a very fast growing sector. And for a brief time, I thought that this is the one usage of the gas which one can think about, in which some amount of carbon you get locked up with the product rather than basically using simply as energy. And once that product life cycle is complete, of course, there is one possibility that we can again utilize that in incineration and get some of the energy again back. But of course, as we go ahead, there are challenges even in the polymer sector as the world is going for more greener. We are also pressing more ahead with the recycling parts and using it very sensibly, a lot of reusing, refurbishing. So there also the pressure is on everybody to reduce the carbon footprint and use the latest technologies, which are available also for recycling and other things, to reduce, you have energy intensity, so you can call it a polymer intensity for our GDP. So, which I guess will have to happen with 2050. Almost all the big developed countries have taken out pledges to become net zero by 2050. India's commitment is little later, but I guess in 2050 the big focus will be on decarbonization. So the industry which is sitting over here will have to really think about the ways and means how we come to achieve this. Of course, energy is required, so there will always be a space for fossil fuels, including oil and gas, even coal maybe for India at that time. But we really need to think that how we can have much greener processes, the integration so that the carbon dioxide emissions from this particular sector are minimized to the extent possible. I thank the organizers, Messe Frankfurt, for inviting me here. In fact, as I said, I will be learning new things about this particular industry and giving me an opportunity to talk about my sector to you. And I wish you all the best. In the 2 days' time, you will come up with, you will have a lot of opportunities to interact and deliberate and come out with recommendations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mishra, for your blessings and kind blessings. Ladies and gentlemen, now I'm going to invite to a fore a member who's a very high esteemed scientist and a member of Niti Aayog, renowned for his extensive experience in defense research encompassing both fundamental and applied sciences. Having served as the secretary of the Defense Research Development Organization, that is the DRDO, he has made remarkable contributions to the indigenous development of missiles like Prithvi, Dhanush, Prahar, and Agni 5, as well as the two-tiered ballistic missiles defense system. Dr. Saraswat played a pivotal role in establishing infrastructure to support the nuclear doctrine, developing cybersecurity technologies, and enhancing the nation's defense capabilities against ballistic missiles threats. Ladies and gentlemen, the man of the moment.
Thank you. Thank you,
Sir.
You don't know? Okay. Namaskar, very good morning. Shri Mishra ji, Shri, I forget your name, Sachin and Dr. Balian, the captains of the industry, policymakers, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me immense pleasure to participate in the 8th edition of the LNG Summit. My education on the gas sector is due to Dr. Sharma, who is sitting here. When I joined Niti Aayog, he was my advisor to tell me all about, mostly about the gas. I used to work on energy, and he was driving the agenda of gas at that time also. And we had a conflict, because I maintained in those days a philosophy that if India has to be energy independent from imports and things like that, then I think it has to be based upon our own resource, that is coal. So we used to have a very interesting dialogue in those days. Today's talk is basically to look at the role of gas in the net zero scenario and the role of natural gas,
how it is going to play. So if you look at the primary energy consumption by source and how much is the gas playing globally and in India, the two graphs indicate one for the global scenario, another one is for the Indian scenario. The bars indicate basically the percentages, and the blue curve indicates actually the energy consumption terawatt hours. So if you look at the fossil fuel global context is about 86%, and out of that gas role globally is only about 25.6%, whereas renewables and nuclear globally is about 14%. In the Indian scenario, where you have fossil fuel about 84%, and unfortunately gas is only 6.7%. We have a majority of our energy coming from coal, oil, and so on. Renewable, and we are doing very well now, and renewable and nuclear, we are better than the global, and we are about 16% today. The installed capacity in terms of the total distribution, if you look at it, the power capacity as it is, the coal is highest, about 211 gigawatts, which is about 48%. And gas installed capacity is about 25 gigawatts, but majority of it is non-operational. So it's about 6%. Then nuclear, about 8 gigawatts, hydro 47, and so on. So you can say even today, we have majority of our power coming from the coal, and gas is the number two. Hydro and solar and wind, they are making a major headway. Total capacity today is about 442 gigawatts, and we are going to demand much, much more. As the GDP goes up and up and up, we are likely to demand almost about 900 gigawatts by 2030. So that is the kind of a projection which Niti Aayog has made so far. Now, if you look at the issue of emissions, previous speakers have dealt upon, Dr. Balian talked about the way the global warming is taking place. The emissions are squarely responsible for that today. And which is the sector which is contributing maximum? It is the power sector. Almost about 1,332 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent is coming from the power sector, 668 coming from the industry sector, transport is 315, agriculture is 421. And the increase has been significant over the years since 1990 to now. You can see almost about more than 300 to 400%, which has been indicated. But there has been emission intensity to GDP was reduced by 33% in 2019 over 2005 value. So gas, which is a relatively cleaner fuel, can be an option for reducing the emissions. But I want to give you a very disturbing figure that we have today. Since the mention was done about how the global warming is taking place and what is the contribution which is coming today, today in the atmosphere we have about 421 or 417 ppm of carbon dioxide. And we are adding almost about 2.3 ppm per annum. And the threshold which has been set for 1.5 degrees Celsius is 440 ppm. That means if you take 2.3 into 10, 23, that means you have just about 10 years to reach that 1.5 degrees Celsius. And what you are seeing, 52.9 today, is an alarming situation, that the way we are heading and not concentrating more on decarbonization, in spite of the fact that there's so much of talk about industrial decarbonization, decarbonization of the electricity sector and all that. But I think our efforts are yet to pay the required dividend. Now, natural gas sector, what is the Indian scenario? If you see from these bar charts, you can see right from 2014-15, it was about 30.285 million tons of oil equivalent. And even in 22-23, it is about 31. Our projections are that it is likely to go to about 40.25. In that forecast in that region, 36.9 to 40.25. So long-term contracts which are happening. That's why this is going to be a possibility. But most of it, that almost about 50% of our demand of the gas is through the import. That is the only feature which puts us into some kind of a difficult situation. The import dependence of natural gas, again, right from 2014-15 to even 22-23, roughly 36.3%, 36.3 to about 43.8, except for the COVID time when the gas prices came down, spot import went up, we were about 14.4. So there's a need for increasing domestic exploration for production. That is the requirement, and that is, I think, what Mr. Sanjeev ji also mentioned. We need to go for more and more domestic exploration for the natural gas. Now, what are the policy measures which have been taken by the government for making sure that we enter into this segment in a much better manner? Some achievements are there. For example, the reduced no-go areas, the areas awaiting clearance from defense, space, and other areas have been reduced now for exploration and exploitation. Today, we have an establishment of a national data repository, which has been done. The mention was done about the small oil fields and stranded oil fields. So a small field development program has been initiated. Acreage awarded under open acreage licensing policy bid rounds, which has also been done. A special bid rounds for award of CBM blocks, which was also mentioned, and reassessment of the hydrocarbon resources is being done. Some of the recent reforms are also responsible for that. For example, the domestic gas price linked to the Indian crude basket instead of the gas prices at the international level. Deregulating the sale of the domestically produced crude oil, and guidelines for early monetization of the hydrocarbon discoveries, and a paradigm shift from revenue to production. We are not looking at revenue, we are looking at revenue to production maximization. Other initiatives are, we are starting looking at appraisal of the Andaman Basin. Exclusive economic zone appraisals are also being made, and liberalization of the exploration and production data use, because it was earlier kept in a kind of a secret. I think that has been also liberalized now. Enhancing ease of doing business, which is being done today. And we have our own draft LNG policy 2021, with the target of increasing the LNG regasification capacity to almost 75 million tons per annum by 2030 and 100 million tons per annum by 2040. That means convert about 10% of long-haul heavy-duty trucks in India to LNG compatible models and establish almost about 1,000 LNG outlets. Now, if you take the overview of the gas-based economy, the complete map indicates we have almost about 23,478 kilometers of gas pipeline operational till 30th June 23. Almost 1,685 kilometer gas pipeline laid in the year 22-23. And all the reforms have also paid off in the last 5 years, like natural gas marketing and pricing reforms. Unified pipeline tariffs have been notified. Indian Gas Exchange has been operationalized. And commingling of the CBG into the CGD network also has been done. Now, in terms of the terminal capacity, again, you see we have the terminal spread almost about 9 to 10 locations. But Dahej, in terms of capacity, is the highest capacity in terms of million metric tons per annum, which is about 17.5. Others are single digit. And in terms of percentage utilization also, we find Dahej is about 95.1%, whereas others are less than 20, 30%, 40%. So current LNG terminal capacity is well placed to meet the increases in demand in short run. Draft LNG policy aims for, as I mentioned to you earlier, 70 MMTA by 2030 and 100 by 2040. Now, what are the sectors, though they talk about petrochemicals, what are the sectors which are actually using the gas? One of the most important gas sector is the transport sector, where in 2022, we were about 9.1 million tons of oil equivalent. And our projection says that by 2030, it will be 26, and by 2047, it will be 57.1. That means LNG, which has got 24% lower emission factors, that means grams of carbon dioxide per kg of fuel, than diesel, has got a distinct advantage. And that's why natural gas consumption in the sector projected to increase 6 times by 2047 from 2022 levels. More than 6,400 CNG filling stations commissioned by various entities authorized by the PNGRB as on February 2024. Medium and heavy commercial vehicle segment offers greatest potential for LNG as a bridge fuel and one of the options of a diversified multi-fuel strategy for the decarbonization. So you can see that there is a distinct advantage if we are going to switch over on heavy-duty trucks and all that on the transport sector. The cooking sector also has similar situation. What used to be 1.4 million tons of oil equivalent in 2022, our expectation it will go to about 12.2 by 2047. The PNG connection has increased from about 25 lakhs in 2014 to about 65 lakhs in 2020 and 1.25 crores in February 2024. Natural gas consumption in the sector projected to increase by 10x by 2047. That is what is going on. And also higher PNG penetration in the urban areas covered under CGD network allows greater availability of clean cooking fuel, LPG, in the rural areas also. Typically, if you look at the industry sector, you have, it is projected to increase by about 7 times in the 2047 from 2022 region. That means from 10.1 to as much as 69.7 million tons of oil equivalent. Non-energy sector also going from 24.5 to about 40.5, 45.5. Mostly the non-energy sector, if you are taking at the fertilizer and the refinery. And I just want to keep the record straight. Today, we have, in addition to the gas being used for the production of fertilizers, we have the technology for producing coal to fertilizers also. Our Talcher plant, which is coming up, is on coal to fertilizer. In addition to that, Indian coal, the problem of gasification of the Indian coal also has been solved. And today we have 3 pilot plants running, gasifying Indian high ash content coal and producing syngas, and from syngas to methanol. So it's an indigenous technology. We are looking at the industry captains today to take this indigenous technology into a larger domain with respect to, and I think Coal India, BHEL, and others, they are all looking at, GAIL is also involved in that. They are all looking at now setting up 4 plants from coal to chemicals. Coal, it could be methanol, it could be DME, it could be ammonium nitrate. Basic idea is to get the syngas. And that syngas can also be used even as a feed into the steel sector. So there is a multiple application happening. So I thought I'll just clarify that, because otherwise we always carry this impression that India doesn't have technology for coal gasification. Power sector is another one where the growth is taking place. 2022, it is 9.2, and 2047, it is 15.6. It is rather slow. Projected increase of natural gas consumption, mainly because of the high cost of the RLNG. And I was given to understand that there are a large number of already installed gas plants, the gas power plants, which are stuck due to the rising cost of the LNG. So unless we do something about it, I think to have more and more gas power plants and giving electricity would be a big question mark. Now, natural gas as primary energy supply under net zero. We certainly feel, when we have done all our simulation in Niti Aayog, that the coal use will progressively come down. But even in 2070, it is expected that we will have about 10% power coming from coal. Now, how much power at that point in time can come from gas will again be a function of how much is the domestic capacity we are able to increase and how much is the cost, competitiveness with respect to the cost of power per unit. I personally believe that gas is a good solution because it is less polluting. And gas-based power plants, if they can be tomorrow combined with carbon capture and utilization, it can give you green energy completely. So it's like coal gas plant also can be done. So decarbonization of the power sector with carbon capture and utilization should be our priority. Net zero scenario, you can see from 2030, we are going to, in 2047, to about 202. But if you take 15% gas scenario, which is what is being talked about, then we'll reduce the use of coal, oil, etc. But economics will play a major role as we are importing LNG to meet almost half the demand of the gas. So that part you have to take care of. And that is where the onus lies on you, sir, for getting more and more indigenous capability as far as things tell now. Now, there are challenges in gas sector. Besides these statistics which I mentioned to you, we have major constraints with respect to the supply, domestic supply. 50% import, affordability is a major issue. I can only tell you that many of our existing fertilizer power plants, RCF is one of them, then Gujarat Narmada Fertilizer, GSFC, many of them. They keep running and switching on, switching off based upon the price of the gas as they're getting. In the last year, when the price was so high, most of them were not able to produce. So that is the kind of a problem. I'm also interested in that because I feel that it is also dictating the production of methanol in our country. The requirement of methanol in our country is almost of the order of 4 million tons per annum. And total production is only about 0.8 to 0.9 million tons. That means there's so much of scope for us to convert this coal to methanol or gas to methanol kind of a thing with decarbonization that we can really make. And sir, that is the area where you have to pitch in. Infrastructure yet to reach for far-flung areas. Clearances from PASO for timely implementation. Generally, it's a major problem. I hope there are some gentlemen or ladies sitting from PASO to take this message. Wherever I have gone, I find that storage capacities, bunkers, gas pipelines, all of them need a lot of time for getting their clearances. I think something has to be done about it. Not under GST, state charge, VAT, and it is a major source of revenue for the states. So that becomes a problem. International price fluctuation lead to the higher cost of LNG and high initial cost of LNG trucks for transport. Even the trucks are costlier. So what is the way forward? First way forward is in terms of exploration and production. We have to increase the exploration and maintaining the high quality data to improve perception of prospectivity to attract investment in oil and gas sector. We should have a consistency in policy. Like the Europe has taken a decision, they will be by and large living on the gas. And hence they stopped all their coal plants and things like that. And that, as a result, of course, they are also dependent on Russian gas or other gas coming from other Middle East countries. But still, they are going ahead with a consistent policy. And even in the net zero scenario, gas is playing a major role there. In fact, some of them have even closed down their nuclear power plants. Developing mature trading hubs for rational and competitive price discovery of natural gas. Then there are issues with respect to taxation. I would recommend that we should include natural gas under GST. And taxation of compressed biogas injected in CNG and PNG, there we should get exemption of VAT from the state governments. Then there will be a competitiveness. Next one is the strengthening the city gas distribution system. The CGD issues in states, that is, requires multiple clearances. I remember when I was trying to get in my locality in Hyderabad, they said, no, Hyderabad, there's no CGD supply, we cannot get it. And in Delhi, when they came to my guest house to give, I think it took them 1 month to get that whole thing done. So I don't know how it happens. Right of use issues are there. Strict enforcement of environmental laws for increasing gas uses for industries are there. Varied and excessive VAT on the natural gas across states need a review. Enhancing biogas production. I think this is one area which we should really focus and identify hotspots to maximize existing gas grid for production and transportation. Strengthening supply chains to overcome the seasonal availability of raw material, which is the feedstock for the biogas. Ensuring offtake to address price uncertainty. And we had to ease the regulatory compliances such as change in land use and speeding up clearances such as PESO clearance. Infrastructure support for integrating CBG and the CGD network is required. Other one is the application in the transport sector. High initial cost of the LNG-based vehicles is a major issue. Availability of LNG vehicles and retrofitment kits, another requirement. Availability of LNG retail outlets, which is limited numbers, they have to be expanded into larger numbers. Financing of LNG trucks and risk, I think we will have to provide some mechanisms. Demand aggregation similar to EV sector to generate initial demand. The way we have done in the EV sector, I think if we do it in the LNG, there will be a lot of traction. Fiscal incentives, LNG trucks and PESO clearance could be there. Basically, final step will be revival of gas-based power plants which are idling. Somehow we should be able to revive our gas-based power plants and integrate them with the decarbonization like carbon capture utilization. It will become the green power that will be available. I stop with this and wish the conference a very good time in the next 2 days. Come up with beautiful, wonderful recommendations. We, Niti Aayog, are looking for what best we can do to make gas as part of the energy transition strategy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. It's a great learning. Ladies and gentlemen, in the interest of time, we will allow only 2 questions coming from the House. Anybody from the audience to take questions to our August panel? Any questions? There are questions. So, okay. On your screens, Anonymous says, while I hear about LNG import terminals coming up in India, are there any plans to set up LNG production facilities as well? So, any of these questions to be answered? Dr. Balian?
Hello. Yeah, I'll try to answer the first one as for the LNG production facilities. Well, LNG production in India could be perhaps limited to that isolated gas which is available, but there are no infrastructure to be transported to the main grid. So it's isolated, uneconomical right now, could be used only locally, but those small-scale liquefaction plants could be one opportunity. And there are, of course, CNG application to such isolated gas is already practiced. So I think this is limited to those opportunities only.
So the second question says to Mr. Sachiv and says, could you please elaborate on resource sharing?
I think resource sharing is because of economics. Everybody is talking about the cost of production. So as volume decreases, cost of production increases. So when you start going through the resource sharing, either in upstream or in downstream, your field viability will be more. This is what we are adopting, and I'm quite sure that category 2 basin will be going to produce with the help of resource sharing. Idle resources is not healthy for owner as well as for the country. We will have to utilize the resources. It is one of the best techniques to use the resources, get money, and get economic value. Thank you. Anything, any pipeline, any facility, if it is idle, we will have to utilize, whether it is a private sector or it is a government sector, we will have to utilize 24/7.
24/7 utilization.
Second question, which is saying about the Parekh committee recommendation about the new wells and new well interventions. if you start drilling new well in nomination regime, any development well or any technology intervention, we are going to get 20% more price. And the price ceiling is there, that is at the both sides, and that price is discovered on the basis of monthly average of crude oil pricing, 10% import of crude oil pricing. So that is what, but this is what the basically giving hint that investment towards more and more exploration and development.
You know, I think we took a very interesting point from you in your speech, sir, that when we started digging oil from Assam, we started from there, right, Big Boy? Yes. And you said today that you're going to find more there and more there on the northeast. Is that right? Sir, would you like to take the next question?
Yeah, the last question.
The next
Suggestion
question,
that
please ensure that Dr.
my
Saraf-
presentation is already loaded on the computer here, so you can take copies. Anybody who is interested, please make sure that the copies are made available to the audience.
That's very generous of you, sir. Thank you so much. Sir, would you like to take any audience any question to Dr. Deepak Mishra ji? Any question in the house? Sir, any question comes to you naturally?
Me?
No, you can ask a question to you.
No, I am happy because I just wanted to place out that there is a lot of opportunities in chemicals as well. And this sector can utilize those opportunities and try to develop the chemical portfolio as well. That will help you out for the business part. So that's what I think the message.
I have a small suggestion which
Sir.
I wanted to make, and since Sachivji is here, I think India has got a lot of results as far as stranded gas is concerned. Many of the places we are burning it and polluting. There are technologies available today where we can have gas to chemicals like methanol, even on a pallet kind of a thing. I know the accessibility to those places in Assam and deep northeast due to the various road connectivity and all that is poor. But I think with this pallet kind of a thing, we can set up localized plants, and instead of taking gas, we can bring liquid like methanol or DME or many of those things. It will add to the requirement of fertilizers and things like that. And tomorrow, in the kind of alternate fuels which we are talking today, ethanol, methanol, and ammonia are going to be the three fuels which are going to be the main fuel tomorrow. Even if for electrification of the transport sector, the basic fuel could be these three, because purely carrying hydrogen, they are the carriers of hydrogen. So it is better that we exploit as much as possible. This is just a suggestion.
Thank you for such a valued suggestion, sir. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with this we come to the end of the inaugural session, and may I request Shri Kushal Sharma ji and Harman to kindly please come up on the stage and felicitate our honorable distinguished guests. These are books. Can you tell me about something about the book? Dr. Ashok Kumar Balyan. So you get enriched by taking another book back home. What is in the book is something which you've got to figure out. Mr. Sachiv Kumar. Mr. Deepak Mishra. And finally to Dr. Vijay Kumar Saraswat. Thank you, sir, for taking out time to be, all of you to have taken your valuable time out to be present in the inaugural session. Can we have a group photograph? May I request Kulbir to kindly come up on the stage for a group photograph, sir? This is a great opportunity. Thank you for taking out time